Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at all of the new Aghanims scepter effects introduced in 7.0. A lot of them are quite crazy and insane, and I think it's a good idea to just take a moment to slow it down and relax and look at all of these new abilities. So, the first spell we've got is Nimbus, which is Zeus's new Aghanims effect. What this does is it creates a storm cloud in front of you that automatically casts lightning bolt on nearby enemies. It lasts 50 seconds, has a 50-second cooldown, 275 mana cost, and has the lightning bolt base cooldown of 2.5, which that just means that it will be casting a lightning bolt every 2.5 seconds, as long as an enemy is in range, and if there's nobody in range, then as soon as somebody steps in, it will start casting again. Now, this ability is actually quite crazy, because it has global range. That is the insane part right here. We can cast this anywhere on the map. It doesn't have to be in front of us, as the ability states. Instead, we can put this here, we can put this here, we can also put this right here. As you may have noticed, the little sigil gives us vision, which is really nice. Having vision is very valuable, and this is something that can scout out people that are hiding in the trees, or maybe jumping around on top of them. It also deals a lot of damage. If we put this down right here, you can see it pushes down the creep wave quite effectively. It is really powerful, actually. I mean, the lightning bolt is a really strong ability with, 350 damage. This thing hurts. Not only does lightning bolt deal a lot of damage, but it also mini-stuns people. Mini-stuns, as you can see right here, the mini-stun still applies if cast by the Nimbus. So this is actually a very powerful spell. 50 seconds is also a very long duration. As you can see, these things last forever. Now, of course, I currently have what the fuck mode enabled. Let me turn that off really quick. You can only have one of these up at a time. They have, a 50-second duration and a 50-second cooldown. Now, something important to note is Zeus already likes buying Refresher, as it is, and Aghanims Scepter isn't a terrible item for him anyway, since he likes having those kinds of stats. Since you're buying Refresher anyway, since Refresher is one of the best damage dealing items for the hero, that allows you to put down 2 of these sigils. As you can see, if I have what the fuck mode enabled, I can actually have multiples of them. These sigils do not replace each other, they stack as expected. And as you can see, right in the middle here, there's a little point of overlap. If I put an enemy there, then they'll be taking a lot of damage. Create hero, next enemy, I'll put him right there. Ooh, he got blown up pretty quickly. That is quite scary. Now, of course, the Thunder God's Wrath, actually, wait a second, it still gets its upgrade. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Now, I'm not sure if that's intentional, but I just looked it up, and it turns out that, yes, actually, it seems that way. While the Aghanims Scepter now grants you the Nimbus ability, the patch notes actually said nothing about removing the added damage part. So it seems that this is just a straight-up buff to the Aghanims Scepter, giving you more options, giving you more damage. This one seems really powerful. Again, Zeus already likes those kind of stats anyway, right? He likes having an Aghanims Scepter. It just wasn't really that powerful of an item. But now, I think this is going to be really strong. It gives him even more of a global presence, because if there's any sort of gank going on anywhere, just put down the sigil and all of a sudden, holy hell. This sigil can actually deal almost more damage than the Zeus. Now, there's one problem with it, and I'm sure you have noticed it already. This thing is not tanky. It actually dies quite easily. If we go ahead and put one down right around here, the creep wave should walk into it in a second. And the creeps can actually take this down quite effectively, right? Not only can creeps take this down quite effectively, heroes, of course, are even faster at it. So while the sigil is a high damage spell, it is not necessarily something that is going to survive for a long time. And as a result, it might be a bit unreliable. It's definitely something that I feel has a lot of potential, but it will require a lot of testing. We'll see. I'm definitely looking forward to playing with it though. It seems quite fun. Sniper's Aghanims is a little bit of an odd one, because this is what the ability usually looks like. We click on the guy, we shoot the guy. It deals a set amount of magic damage. It's pretty straightforward. However, once we pick up the Aghanims Scepter, the ability becomes entirely different. We can now target the ground. Once we target the ground, Sniper takes aim on everybody inside of the AoE and then shoots all of them. But instead of dealing magic damage, he now deals a critical strike. This critical strike is 280% of his regular damage. So as you can see, if I do it like so, then I'll hit them for 327 damage, which is actually less than I deal just like this. However, once I pick up my Divine Rapier, which is of course reasonably enough, right? It's the first item I ever buy on Sniper. But once I have that, and I shoot these people, I hurt quite a bit. This is actually very powerful in that situation. Now what makes this even better is that enemies don't actually have to stay inside of the radius. This ability doesn't work in such a way that you select the radius and then Sniper shoots at everything that is inside of the radius when he shoots. Instead, you select the radius and then enemies can walk away and they'll still get shot because he takes aim at the units inside of the radius. And as such, it doesn't matter where they are going. It doesn't matter how they split up. They'll still get hit. And that is quite powerful. This is an Aghanims I actually kind of expect to see a lot of. This seems really, really strong. This seems really, really good. I mean, you gotta keep in mind that Sniper's ultimate does have a very short cooldown as it is. It's 10 seconds. You can easily use this ability twice in a fight. You can actually go for an item build like this. You rush into the Divine Rapier. I mean, this ability has a huge range. Look at this, 3,000 range. You stand in the back. You shoot people from the back with your assassin. You just snipe them with your Divine Rapier without ever having to risk your life. That is very, very powerful. Anti-Mage's Aghanims Scepter causes Spell Shield to passively block and reflect a targeted spell once every 12 seconds. This is very powerful, as you might expect. This is essentially a better Lincoln Sphere. Now, this is how it works. You click on him, he blocks the spell and throws it back at you. He doesn't take any of the negative effects. This works with all abilities that would usually be blocked by a Lincoln's. If I assassinate him, you can see he doesn't take any damage, but our Sniper takes quite a bit. Same, of course, for something like a Laguna Blade. This is actually incredibly powerful. I have no doubt in my mind that this Aghanims Scepter will see play, not only as something that will be shared to an anti-mage as a priority from an alchemist, but also as something that an anti-mage very well might pick up just as additional protection against the high single target team, where they have a lot of abilities that are worth blocking with Lincolns. You would get an Aghanims Scepter instead of Lincolns. In fact, since this is so powerful, since this is so much better than the Lincolns, this immediately makes it so that Lincolns becomes a much more, or this Aghanims becomes a much more attractive option. And again, I have no doubt in my mind that this will see play occasionally. This will absolutely be a viable occasional option for anti-mage, dependent on the game. Now again, this scepter blocks all spells that a Lincoln's would. This also includes stuff like Sand King's Burrow Strike. As you can see, not only does he block it, but also he casts it himself, and he casts it on the Sand King, which in return then always ends up stunning the Sand King. This is obviously very powerful. I see no way how this doesn't see play. Skywrath Mage's Aghanims Scepter now makes it so that anytime Skywrath Mage casts an ability, a different random nearby target will be hit with the same ability. Heroes will take priority. This is pretty straightforward. As you can see, all 5 of these Nyxes are in range. This one is clearly closer than any of the others. If I cast a spell on this guy, another spell is going to be flying on another one of the Nyxes in the radius. Now this is completely random. It doesn't always have to be this guy. As you can see, it can also end up being him. It doesn't have to be the person that's the closest to him. As you can see, the Nyx assassin that's the closest is only now getting hit by a spell. This works for all of his abilities, so I cast the silence, somebody else gets silenced. I cast this, somebody else gets silenced. I cast the W, it goes flying as well. Now usually the W actually only affects the closest unit. Now this is still random. As you can see, it actually went flying all the way over there, even though, you know, that is definitely not the second closest unit. His ultimate, usually you cast it like this, it will just go on a nearby enemy hero. Now, since it doesn't have to target a hero, I can also cast it over here, but the secondary one will always target a hero. Secondary one doesn't give a damn, the secondary one is better at aiming than you, the secondary one will always hit a hero. And as you can see, it's quite accurate with that too, always cast it right on top of them. Now, this also works with creeps, so if I wait to cast this on a creep, then it bounces to the creep as well, but it will prioritize heroes. As you can see, it's not gonna bounce to the other creep as long as there's a hero around. Fairly straightforward. This I don't think is very good. I have already played a game with this. I'm gonna be uploading that game soon, but it didn't seem very powerful. I gotta admit, it just didn't do much. The thing about it, it is still random, right? If it was a bit more controllable, if it affected the closest enemy as opposed to just a random one, or if maybe instead of making it so that you need 2 enemies, maybe it still works if there's only one guy around and it just kind of comes out twice, which it currently doesn't. Wait, let me go and... Alright. Turns out Scarf Mage has a lot of cast range, so let's go ahead and put this right here. And as you can see, the same guy doesn't get hit twice by the same ability. Instead, it will only hit another enemy if there is actually another enemy to hit. Then it might be worthwhile, but as it is right now, I don't really think it's that good. It's unreliable. It doesn't really work well with the kind of items you buy on a core Skyriff Mage. It is something that can in theory be quite powerful with putting out 2 Mystic Flares. If for example you black hole people and then you put out 2, that can definitely hurt. But it doesn't have to be. And most of the time I think you're better off just going for a different item. Crystal Maiden's new Aghanims Scepter makes it so that Freezing Field applies Frostbite to any unit that has been standing in the Freezing Field for over 2.5 seconds. Now, an important thing to also note about Freezing Field, one of the talents Crystal Maiden can get actually increases the Frostbite duration by 1.5 seconds. So it goes up to a total of 4.5, which is really, really lengthy. Now, of course, you need to be level 25 for that, which is a little bit unlikely since you're playing Crystal Maiden. But in the hypothetical scenario that it happens, it could end up being quite powerful. Now let's go and take a look at how this works exactly. If I cast the ultimate, enemies are gonna get hit, and after 2.5 seconds they get frozen and rooted in place. Now this is of course quite powerful. Not only does this mean it deals a lot of damage, because Frostbite isn't actually that weak, right? It deals 300 damage, which is really, really solid. So we have the Freezing Field damage as well as the Frostbite damage. Freezing Field will slow them down as they're trying to run away, and if they take too long, then they will take the damage. Now, an important thing to note here is, unlike Zeus's Aghanims, this one actually loses its regular Aghanims effect, or the previous one, which means people only get slowed by 30% now. I gotta be completely honest with you, I don't think this is a very good one. The problem is, Crystal Maiden's ultimate didn't really have the issue of people, I don't know what, honestly, the Frostbite is supposed to solve, right? People running away, I guess, but honestly, in 2.5 seconds, like, look at this. This guy is standing right next to the main, right? But 2.5 seconds, he almost made it out, and that is without boots. Now, in a more realistic scenario, the man would have boots, so let's go ahead and give him some boots. Can you stop attacking? Give bots item boots. There we go. Now he can walk a little bit quicker, right? So he's standing right next to the main. He's just got regular boots, nothing else, right? Just regular boots. And we walk. Almost made it. So you can see that it is really, and that is with me standing right next to her. And that's just a little bit, alright? Like, if I'm a little bit further away, I mean, this guy right here, he has absolutely no issue getting out of there. Like, that is just not even hard. Now, not only that, but the Frostbite doesn't actually apply twice. If it somehow could apply twice, then I could see it being powerful, but it doesn't. It only applies once. Now, it does have that the advantage that if people come in to the frostbite, even though they weren't in there beforehand, like this guy for example, right, he's coming in. Now he's going to get frozen as well, but I mean, who walks into frostbite? The real issue with this ability is what happens is the following. People push this and that interrupts it, and then that's it. And this doesn't really solve that issue. Even with the frostbite duration talent, I don't think this is really a significant upgrade. Crystal Maiden will of course always struggle getting there in the first place, and it's really not gonna be something that I think will be particularly powerful, right? I don't think it's something that changes when you buy Aghanims Scepter on main. You'll still get it in the same situations that you would have gotten it beforehand. Really, the only advantage this gives you is that people will struggle a bit attacking you, right? So you're kind of training people having a harder time running out of it, because the slow was more powerful with the previous one. For people will now have a harder time just attacking you as the main and killing you before you get your ultimate off. But even in that scenario, in most cases, a Crystal Maiden would just die if people attack her for 2.5 seconds. She's just not that tanky. So, yeah, I don't believe. I'm sorry. Now, Ricky's Aghanims is all about the memes. It's actually quite similar to Luna's Aghanims upgrade. It does the following. It increases the duration of your ultimate by 4 seconds, which is quite a bit. Ricky's ultimate was already quite long to begin with, and as you can see, if I cast it on myself, then I'll just cast it regularly, and it takes quite a while, right? Turns out that 10 seconds of, what is it called, Tricks of the Trade is pretty damn long. However, it also allows you to turn yourself into Pocket Ricky. You can click it on an ally, and then the field is around the ally. The ally can also carry it around with them, and, you know, you then deal damage with that ally. Now, the really cool thing about this, though, is if I cast this on an ally, and the ally dies, then the ultimate doesn't end. As you can see, it just kind of keeps going. It, of course, stops moving, but it does continue working. And that is really powerful. Now, Ricky, I don't think in his current place in the metagame is going to be buying Aghanims, just because he doesn't really have the resources for it. But if that somehow changes, right, if somehow he manages to acquire more farm than he currently does, then I can actually see this being quite significant. You know, you can put it on, for example, you know, like Ursa, Lifestealer, anybody that likes to run in and be in the middle of the fight. You cast that on them. It has a big cast range, as you can see. It's fucking huge. Now, keep in mind, I have the 250 from the talent here. Sorry, I accidentally skilled that, but I have 250 additional cast range from the talent, but it still has 1,000 to begin with. So it is quite big in terms of AoE. It is an interesting piece. It's really something that I think has a lot more theoretical use than practical use, though. We'll see, right? This could definitely be a sleeper. This could definitely be something that we'll see a lot of, but it could also be something that is just gonna be, you know, not really that useful. Let's actually not say not that useful, more not that practical. All right, that's really the issue I see with it. Slark's Aghanims makes it so his ultimate goes down to a 30-second cooldown and becomes an AoE. As you can see, it is visually larger, and it now affects allies around him. So I have my ally here, cast it on him, you can see he's also invisible and also has the Shadow Dance on him. Now, this of course can be quite powerful. As you can see, if I cast this, then this guy disappears completely, even though I have a gem. There is actually a Nyx assassin there, and you know, the ability to kind of hide your allies like this can be pretty powerful, I suppose. It has a rather large AoE, right? As you can see, it is actually bigger than its animation. But honestly, the thing about this ability, I don't really think it's something that Slark needs. I think that's why he has this, and I think that the creators of the game very much understand that. This is something that I don't believe we'll see any play. There could be some crazy combinations with Lifestealer that maybe might work like this, right? Let's say you have a team that somehow can fit an Alchemist, a Lifestealer, and a Slark in there. Then you have the Alchemist feed an Aghanims to the Slark, and then the Slark becomes the vehicle for the Lifestealer, kind of playing more of an initiation role. You could also maybe look at an offlane Slark, kind of more of a supporting role with the Aghanim Scepter, Blink Dagger, again playing more of an initiation role. But honestly, Slark just doesn't have the skill set for that. Other heroes do it better, and it seems like a lot of work for, 4 seconds of gimmick. An important thing to note as well is that this does not apply the regeneration. So, of course, a big part of Slark's ultimate is that it gives him regen, which allows him to just keep fighting forever, go in and out of fights. If the Aghanims applied the regen, then maybe I could see this happening, but as you can see, I cast it, the main Slark gets healed, the other one doesn't, because it doesn't apply the regen. So I'll have to give this one a pass. I'm probably not gonna be buying it. Chaos Knight's Aghanims is something I really didn't see coming, but it does make sense to me. So what it does is it reduces the cooldown of your ultimate by 20 seconds, and it also allows you to cast it on allies, which kind of looks like this. You can see we now have Chaos Knight illusions of Slark. Now, these illusions, as we all know, are very powerful. They deal as much damage as your main hero. They only take twice the damage than your main hero. They are really, really scary. This is obviously an insanely powerful effect. Right? This is the kind of effect that having this alone might make it so that Chaos Knight becomes more of a support. Now, I know that sounds a bit crazy, but think about Chaos Knight, think about his skill set. He has very high movement speed, in fact, one of the highest in the game, 325 base. He has high starting damage. His damage variation is very high as well, which is very unsuited for a hero that wants to farm in lane, because you kind of want a little bit more precision than a Chaos Knight can really offer. His Chaos Strike was changed to be a little bit more reliable, and now gives him a bit of lifesteal. But that's not really the relevant part, right? Chaos Strike is something we can actually just skip entirely, and instead we go for Chaos Bolt and for Reality Rift. If you think about it, these two abilities are actually incredible ganking spells. Especially Reality Rift has an armor reduction now. Chaos Bolt, of course, is obviously very powerful as a ganking tool. I mean, it's just a stun that can last 4 seconds, and if it doesn't, then it deals a lot of damage, right? So either way, you're getting a good deal. You reduce armor, pull enemies in. This is really, really scary. Now, this won't be the first time either that a support only really uses 3 of his abilities, right? I mean, just look at Dazzle, for example. Dazzle doesn't skill his Q most of the time, and that, you know, that's just something that, oh wait, there's actually a lot of similarities there to some extent. And then, of course, once you get your Aghanim Scepter, being able to cast the Phantasm on an enemy, not an enemy, on an ally, right? You have your anti-mages, you have your Lunas, you cast Phantasm on them, and holy hell, I mean, you're just gonna start wrecking shit with that. That is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And yeah, I can absolutely see this working, right? Absolutely can I see this working. Now, the thing is that, of course, it's a little bit far-fetched, because Chaos Knight right now is really only played as a core, but this wouldn't be the first time that one item changes the position of a hero and how he's played in his entirety. And I think this is absolutely something that is worthwhile considering. Of course, it's gonna take a lot more playing to figure out if this is actually any good. But I would honestly not be surprised to see Chaos Knight become a viable support, just based off the back of this Aghanims. The only thing I can see him holding back, that I can see holding him back from that, is that he needs the Aghanims, right? But a hero like Ancient Apparition or Warlock, they also very desperately want an Aghanims. It's not that they need it, right? They don't need it. While this one, this Chaos Knight, this support, hypothetical support Chaos Knight, would absolutely require it. He must have it. If he doesn't have it, then the entire strategy doesn't work. Now, at the same time, though, in the early game, he doesn't necessarily need it that badly, because in the early game, honestly, the ultimate alone, even without any items, is quite scary. It can really do a lot of hurt. So, yeah, I don't expect to see this on a carry Chaos Knight. Maybe on like a supporting core Chaos Knight, maybe on a Chaos Knight that is played in the safe lane, but doesn't take the position 1 role. Instead, you have a farming off lane and you have a farming mid, and it just kind of becomes more of a supporting character. I could see that happening, but I would also not be surprised to see a Chaos Knight come, you know, like a support Chaos Knight come into existence off the back of this new Aghanims scepter. Phantom Lancer's Aghanims allows his Q to bounce, in a very similar fashion to Tinker's Aghanims allows his laser to bounce. If we cast the Q, then you can see it just jumps from enemy to enemy and creates the illusion with every single enemy. It is pretty straightforward. I don't expect this to ever see play, ever. Even though it is a cute effect, Phantom Lancer is already too weak to be able to spend the time farming up an Aghanim Scepter, and he will simply not be able to afford it at a reasonable pace. Because then you have to disregard items like Manta Style and Diffusal Blade, and frankly, life is already hard enough for Phantom Lancer as it is. I don't see this being ever bought unless it is given to him through an Alchemist, but even there I think it's going to be of very low priority. Bounty Hunter's Aghanims makes it so that his Shuriken Toss can bounce to the same enemy twice. This is definitely something I expect to see in many games. It is very powerful, as you can see right here. Even if I just have 2 people tracked up, then I throw my Shuriken and oh, that already hurts quite a bit. If I have 3 people tracked up, I can just do super nasty things like that. Everybody gets hit by Shuriken Toss twice. Of course, Shuriken does have quite the bounce range. No, you get out. But it does have quite the bounce range. So since it is kind of a very reliable tool to some extent, you can expect this to deal its maximum damage quite frequently. And to top it all off, Bounty Hunter is definitely the kind of hero that both has the space and the money for an Aghanim Scepter. He appreciates the stats, and it's something that honestly I would go for, even with an effect that is weaker than what Bounty Hunter got in the patch. I absolutely expect this to see play. I absolutely expect this to be a huge buff to Bounty Hunter as a whole, and I would be very surprised if you know, he doesn't get picked up quite frequently with the Aghanim Scepter. So yeah, anyway, that is going to cover all of them. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I found it to be quite interesting. And yeah, anyway, it's going to be the last video I make for tonight. It's already quite late. I gotta get some sleep sometime, but I don't know. I just wanted to talk about the new Aghanim Scepters. I always think those are really, really interesting. Please feel free to let me know what things you agree or disagree with. Maybe you think one of them is really, really powerful that I think is weak. Maybe you think the Phantom Lancer is really strong. In that case, I would really love to hear your reasoning for that. But, you know, if you agree with what I have to say, I would also love to hear that, just so I can get myself a nice pat on the back. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a rating on the video if you did. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.